Hi there, welcome to the Upcycle Design Lab. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if this is your first time here, my name's Cindy and I craft using recycled and repurposed materials to give you ideas on ways to make and create more economically and ecologically. In my last video, I made several different bead styles from empty aluminum, beer, and soda cans. And in today's video, I'm going to take those beads to make some projects. So step into the lab with me and let's do some upcycling. In my last video, I made 3 different types of beads using different parts of an aluminum can. And if you missed that video, you can check that out in the description box below. But the first type of beads were these, what I'm calling bottle cap beads. I also made these large pendant beads made from the bottoms of the aluminum cans. Lastly, I made some different rolled beads using the flat portion of the aluminum can. So today I'm going to show you some projects that I've made with all of these beads. So I like to use the bottle cap beads for a couple of different projects. They make cute little wine glass markers, and all you need for that is to buy some little hoop earrings that open and close so that you can just wrap the bead around the stem of the glass and you've got a little wine glass marker. They also make cute keychains. And lastly, I like to use them for zipper pulls. My first pendant was very simple. I just used some black cording, some Dollar Tree little silver pony beads, and because I had alcohol ink on the bead, I did seal it with some Mod Podge Super Gloss. This is what it looks like. I just made kind of a long rope chain with a couple of pony beads, and then the aluminum can bead with the alcohol ink. My second pendant was the decoupage pendant that I made, and I sort of had some fun playing around with it. I had some cording and I bought some new jewelry findings. I used some green cording that I had on hand. And because I was using so many layers and not just a piece of ribbon, I used some more of my HVAC tape that I used to make the beads with, and I just cut a little piece for the end to hide under the little clamp. So these are the little jewelry clamps that I bought. They have lots of little teeth in them and they just pinch together really easily, and then you can just add a jump ring to the end of them. So those were a fun new thing I hadn't used before. And then for my jewelry clasp, I'm using the 2 pieces with the little hook that goes through the hoop. And if you use those, you do need a little bit of jewelry chain so that you have room for the clasp to go through the ring. You need a couple of pair of needle nose pliers, and then I also used some jump rings on the ends of the jewelry piece here. That was sort of a fun little experiment. I've never used the jewelry clamps before. I don't have a ton of jewelry making tools or anything, but that was my second pendant. My next pendant was just kind of silly and fun and experimental, but I used some of the Gorilla Glue to glue some of these little faceted jewels onto the bead itself, and then I made a chain out of a bunch of pull tabs, which was sort of fun. So here's what it looks like. It's a little bit silly, but I kind of like it. And to make the chain is very simple. You just need to clip the oval piece in the middle, and then you're going to sort of bend it apart. And you need 5 pieces, so you're going to put the open end through all the pieces. And then you can use some needle nose pliers to kind of close the gap back up. And then once you slide it in there, the gap is kind of hidden, so you don't really see it. And then you're just going to put your next piece in the same way until you have 5 pieces. And the only thing is that you want to make sure that you have sort of the finished edge out on both sides. So I have these two pieces going this way, so the next piece I want to face in toward the other rough edge. You've probably seen these before if you have looked at anybody's bottle cap projects, but I just thought it was fun and I wanted to give it a try because I've seen them before. So I just need 2 more pieces on there, and then I have my next link of chain. So like I said, that was my third pendant necklace here. You can see I just used the glue to glue some of the smaller gems around the edge and one in the middle. And like I said, it's kind of silly, but sort of fun. In my last post, I made these rolled metal beads from the sheets of aluminum can, and I think you can see the cut lines on here. I do cut these on my Cricut cutting machine, but like I said, you probably could cut some of the different styles by hand. Like this particular one, you could probably also cut by hand. And I do have those templates on my blog post, so I have a SVG format if you want to use your Cricut cutting machine, and I also have just a PDF file to cut by hand. So be sure to check the description box and find those links so if you want to use the templates. But I also wanted to show you that I made a couple of other bead styles. This is kind of the same idea as this one, but you can see it's quite a bit bigger. So I have this template on my blog post as well. And then I have just these little cylinder beads. Now these are so uniform that you might have a hard time cutting them by hand, but this is what they look like once they're cut. And I have the tape on there ready to roll, and I've got my little starter roll ready to go. And then this bead actually takes 3 different sheets of material. So you do have to piece them together with the HVAC tape, and it looks kind of like this when it's done. So you can see it's big, long shape, but there are 3 cans taped together here to make this longer piece. But I just wanted to mention that you can get those templates if you're interested. Visit the link in the description box and it'll take you to my blog post where you can get to those templates. So to make a pair of a bracelet and a pair of earrings takes 12 beads. So I've got 12 beads here, and I've just saved a little plastic container with a lid. Like I said, the only colors of alcohol ink I have are these 3 colors. So I've got the aquamarine, the sepia, and the crimson, and you can kind of mix them together and get some fun different colors. So I'm going to try to mix the red and the blue to get some more beads that are sort of this purple hue. And to do that, I'm just going to dump my beads. You don't want too big of a container because the alcohol ink will, you know, get soaked into the container as well, and you really want it to be on the beads and not the container. Oops, I'm forgetting. I need my gloves. Time out. All right, I changed my mind. I think I'm going to mix the red and the, what is this again? Sepia, and try to make kind of an orangey color. So I'm almost out of red. Hopefully I have enough here. But I'm just going to drop some drops. I try to hit the beads themselves, because like I said, the ink will soak into the container as well. These inks go a long way, but I'm just about out of red. All right, so I've got a few drops in there. I'm just going to put the lid on and shake them up. And you can see a lot of it is getting on the container. So I have a little spray bottle here of alcohol ink as well. And I'm just going to spritz there a little bit. I'm going to try to spritz the plastic and not the beads so that the ink comes off of the container and goes onto the beads a little better. And if you need to, you can add more alcohol ink. I need some more brown, it looks like. So you can just work with them until you get them the color that you like. These look pretty orange, but a lot of times one of the sides doesn't get covered too well. So you can stir them up too if you don't have a lid for your container. Those look pretty good. So I'm going to just dump them out on my little plastic lid here and let them dry. So I'm going to let the ink dry on these for a little bit, but these beads have already had the ink set pretty well. So I just want to go ahead and put my finishing coat on. So I'm going to go ahead and just skewer these onto my little toothpicks. And then I can brush on some of my Mod Podge. As I mentioned before, I did end up using this Mod Podge Super Gloss, which I decided to use just because it's, I think, a little bit more waterproof. It does take 28 days to cure completely, but since I had it, I decided to use it instead of just the regular Mod Podge. So the only thing you want to be careful about is some of the ink color does come off onto the brush. So you don't want to be swirling your brush around in your Mod Podge unless you put a little bit off to the side and don't, so you're not mixing it in the whole bottle. But I found that if I just carefully dip the brush, it doesn't get any color into the rest of my Mod Podge. So I'm just gonna carefully brush a coat all the way around each of my beads, and then I've got some rice here that's just holding my little toothpicks upright until the Mod Podge has a chance to dry. If your beads are slipping around on your toothpicks, you can just put a little hot glue stopper on there, which is what I did with mine. And it works pretty well. So I'm going to finish these up and then we will string a bracelet. All right, I am not a professional jewelry maker, as you probably already know, but I did recently learn how to use a couple of things that are pretty exciting, to me at least. I don't have a ton of jewelry tools either, but I do have a couple pairs of needle nose pliers. I've got some of the round nosed pliers. I think maybe that's what they're called. I don't even know. And then I recently just bought this cutting tool for about, I don't know, $7. So it's all pretty affordable. Then I've got some scissors, a little bit of elastic cording. I'm going to be using the magnetic clasps because for bracelets, they're just a lot easier. I've got some spacer beads, my rolled beads, jump rings, and then these two things. If you make a lot of jewelry, you probably already know all about these, but these are called crimp beads, and these are the end caps that go over the crimp beads. So I recently learned how to use them, and it does make your jewelry look much nicer than if you're just trying to finish off the end. So these little things close over your crimp bead, and your crimp bead is there instead of a knot. So it's much nicer way to finish off your jewelry. So I'm going to go ahead and just try to duplicate my little bracelet in the green version. So I want some extra cording here. So I'm going to cut it a little bit longer than my bracelet. This is actually a little bit thick. It almost doesn't fit through some of the smaller beads. it's 1 millimeter, so you might want a slightly thinner cord if you're making your own beads here, if you're doing your own bracelets. Now, I've seen people start with some tape on the end, but I'm just going to go ahead and start with my crimp bead. They are tiny. This cording is stiff enough that you don't really need to do anything other than just thread it through. Oops, I did that backwards though. Sorry, see, I'm an amateur. The little clamshell thing needs to go on first. So it's got, hopefully you can see this, it's got a hook on the end, and then it's got a hole in the bottom. I'm just going to thread this cording through, but it is hard to get through. This is the hardest piece because I think my cord is just a little too big. All right, that was quite the ordeal, but I got it through there. So now I'm going to take a crimp bead. And for this end, you don't have to, you can just crimp the bead wherever. So I'm going to take my needle nose pliers and just kind of crush this bead right on there. And then you can slide your little clamshell down. And actually, I'm going to trim my cord off first. And then I'm going to close my little clamshell over that crimp bead. And I've got a nice little finished end for my bracelet now. So I'm going to go ahead and just assemble my bracelet here. It's pretty simple. I'm just alternating beads. So I've got my beads all strung, and now I'm going to go back to my little clamshell shape here. And it actually was easier holding it with my needle nose pliers. And then trying to feed this cord through. You want it to close as kind of pointing out toward the end of the bracelet, not pointing in toward the bracelet. So now on this one, I just want to pull it all the way to tighten the beads. Then I'm gonna slide another crimp bead on. I can't tell you how excited I am about crimp beads. I never knew how to use them. YouTube is amazing for stuff like that. All right. Now, because my space in here is so small, I'm going to use my round nose pliers because they can fit right in there, because I want to clamp this clamp bead, keeping all the beads tight. So I'm going to slide it back in there, pinch it. You can see nothing's moving now. And then I can close my little clamshell again. Oops, I always forget, I want to trim off my cord too though. So the good thing about these little clippers is they can reach right in here because they cut on the side. So you can get right up to the end of your cord and you don't have any cord sticking out. All right, now I'm ready to close my clamshell. And then you can see I have two little hooks on the end here, my round nose pliers, and I'm going to go ahead and close this ring. On both ends. And then I'm going to take one jump ring and my two needle nose pliers to open the ring. And I'm just going to loop one end through and grab one of my jewelry clasps and hook it through there too. And then I can just close the jump ring. The magnet sticks to the pliers. And then I'll just repeat the process on the other end. All right, and there's our second aluminum can beaded bracelet. So I hope today has given you some fun inspiration and some ideas. There's obviously a ton of things you could do with these beads. You can make all different sizes and shapes, color them different ways, and just have fun with it. So thank you so much for watching. Do check my blog post if you're interested in getting to the links for the templates or for some other upcycling inspiration. Also, if you're interested in the actual bead making tutorial, you can find that link in the description box as well. Or if you'd like to check out some of my other aluminum can projects, click the playlist below. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you back here soon in the lab for my next experiment.